Yeah, eventually went to uni, had no sort of passion for it at all. And that really was sort of the thing that made me realize, like, I don't really want to do this. And then I thought to myself, why would I go back into a job when I can do something like this where it's digital? Like you said, I could be wherever I want, whenever I want. Obviously, everyone sees trading as that, even though most likely it's not. That's what sort of ignited that fire in me, and then, yeah, started pursuing it, and luckily it played out.
In this day and age, we're consistently hit with dopamine, and we don't see the impact that it's having. If you're trying to achieve anything in life, not necessarily trading, make sure that a distraction such as a phone, if you're not using it for beneficial, like learning something on social media, be careful of how you spend the time when you start scrolling, because time will just go, and then just all of that time you could put into something else.
Prop firms are your tool to get to a live account, because every single trader must be aiming to be on a large live account, because you're not as restricted. You can essentially trade how you want to trade, but obviously to generate capital, there's no better tool than a prop firm. You've got instant access to 200k in capital, 100k depending on what account you buy.
In trading, you need to have your strategy down to a T, your psychology down to a T. You will succeed. It may take a while, it may take years. Don't expect it to be quick, but if you really stick at it and you know what you're doing, you're disciplined, regardless of whatever route you take, you will have a level of success in trading that you aspire to have. So yeah. And we are live. Hello traders, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Bright Funded Traders Roundtable podcast. I'm Eduardo, the host for the show, and today we have a very exciting episode as we're switching it up a little bit with a special hot seat edition. We're going to be diving deep into the mindset, the journey, and the strategy of one of the most transparent traders in the industry. He's built a reputation from trading live in front of an audience every single day. No editing, no hiding, just real, raw, and authentic trading. If you watched the last episode, you would have seen he was dropping gems upon gems, and I'm sure he'll be dropping some more today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sam, aka Trendlines. I'm going to be a little bit annoying because I know you gave us an introduction last time, but for the new viewers, could you just give a little insight into who you are, when you started trading, what got you into trading? I know we're going to go into it further on, but yeah, the floor is yours, man.
No, thank you for having me, man. So my name's Sam. I've been trading for roughly 3 years now. I started off as a solicitor. I was working a 9 to 5. This is sort of my journey that I tell everyone. Really didn't like it, didn't enjoy it. I was looking for ways to make money, stumbled across trading, lost money for a long time, and now we're out the other end. And yeah, as you said, live trading every single day on YouTube, and just trying to help people do the same as I did. So yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, thank you, my bro, for the introduction again. And I actually wanted to begin, so before your trading experience, so personally, when I was growing up, I'm not that old, I always used to think about, like, in the future, I want to dabble into trading. I want to be able to pick up a laptop in any location, connect to a piece of Wi-Fi, click a few buttons and make a good amount of money without reporting to a manager, and just, the usual. And I reckon a lot of people had these ideas when they were growing up. But for yourself, when you were growing up, did you always see yourself becoming a trader? Was this something that you were actually thinking about, or what were your other goals in life?
Yeah, no, so mine was the standard, no clue what I wanted to do. I actually, for a long time, wanted to be a footballer. I went through the academy stages back home where I'm from. And then, eventually got dropped from that, woke up to reality. And then I went to a very traditional school, traditional parents, very privileged upbringing. So, I was sort of funneled into that traditional route of, law, medicine, etc. Eventually went to uni, had no sort of passion for it at all. Just went through the motions, didn't go to any of my uni classes. I think the first year I had about 4% attendance.
4%?
Terrible,
Okay,
honestly terrible. And that really was sort of the thing that made me realize, like, I don't really want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd built up the courage to drop out though.
Mm-hmm.
It was just not something that people did. I think this was just a little bit before it became quite mainstream for people to actually post online about entrepreneurialism and all that sort of thing. There was a large stage where it was cringe to do that. You were cringe if you were posting self-improvement or business or whatever. And I think that was during that phase. Luckily, towards the end of my uni career, came into sort of crypto. Again, luckily made a lot of money on that, or a decent amount of money on that. And then I thought to myself, why would I go back into a job when I can do something like this where it's digital? Like you said, I could be wherever I want, whenever I want. And obviously everyone sees trading as that, even though most likely it's not. But yeah, that's what sort of ignited that fire in me, and then started pursuing it, and luckily it played out.
Okay, cool. So, that's interesting to see that you didn't really, growing up, you didn't really even have a thought of it, which is cool. So it's just like things have worked out great, which is super good to hear. But
yeah, I think I always had that like inside me, that entrepreneurial spirit, without knowing it, the type of kid that was selling stuff at school or reselling shoes, the Supreme, exactly, that type of thing. But yeah, never really actually realized it. And then one day it was like a sort of inner calling. I think most people will have it out there. They're, destined for something bigger. And luckily I listened to it.
Okay, nice. Out of curiosity, are you any good at football?
I doubt I would be now. It's been a long time since I played. I played academy. I was a striker.
Oh, okay. Cool, man.
Used to be a bit of a bagsman, to be honest.
Yeah.
But not anymore. I don't think I'd be cut out for it.
What team did you support?
I don't support any teams. This was a weird thing. I used to hate watching football. I used to love playing it, but I never watched it. Apart from England and the Euros, I still get into the Euros and the World Cup and everything, but I just can't watch it. I don't know why.
Fairs. Okay. I guess it still worked, innit? Okay, cool. So yeah, to touch on your journey then into trading. So you mentioned that you went to university and then you studied law and you eventually got a job within the law industry. So how was that experience? Like when you were working a 9 to 5, was it a thing where every day you woke up and think, I'm destined for something more, like I can't be doing this all my life? Or were there parts you enjoyed and then did something happen and made you say, okay, I need to change what I'm doing? Because you're still very young. So
yeah. No, I'll tell you what it is. The things I enjoyed were the glamorous things of that. So I'm sure if you've seen Suits, that side of thing, which is not what law is like actually. But yeah, I think the main thing was I just knew that I didn't want to do it. I'm that type of person, when I don't have the passion, I'm a bit lazy, and when I have the passion, you can't stop me working. So yeah, I can't even tell you the amount of times I was caught on TradingView at the office. My boss would come up, we were in these little cubicles as standard. My boss would come and lean over the cubicle and she'd see candlesticks and she'd be like, what is that? This old, really nice woman, but I think she was a bit I think she probably knew.
Yeah.
And then, so I was trying to trade whilst I was at work. I knew that this was not for me, just trying to get my way out. And I think luckily I was not enough caught in the rat race where, I had a mortgage and kids where I could still escape. And, I actually had to take a step backwards. And a lot of people are actually too afraid to do this. But I was able to take the step backwards, move back in with my parents back home, which again is a privilege. But I wasn't too egotistical to say, I've got a nice apartment now, I don't want to move back. I realized, I'm paying this in rent, council tax, all this stuff. If I move back, my trading's going to get better. I've got no financial pressure. I can save up capital. So that's what I did, saved up capital, stacked money, moved home with my parents. And then when I was profitable and ready to go, I had the cash right there and it was game over.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great point you actually touched on. If you're able, or if you're in a position where, for example, money or capital isn't an issue, or you can reduce the overhead that you have so you can actually focus on trading and not, because in trading, it's just like, whenever you're chasing the money and whenever you need it, it becomes psychologically even that bit harder. So the fact you're able to just go back in with your parents and just focus on trading, learning the skill, making sure that you know what you're doing, then you were in a sweet spot to just essentially take it to the next level. So yeah, that's
exactly.
Really good.
It's like people say, you need to not to chase, you have to attract. And it's the same thing with trading. You have to just take a step away, stop chasing the money, set yourself up. It's almost like you're setting a big net up, right? If you're trying to catch the most fish as possible, set up that net and just wait for them to come to you. And obviously set up your skill set, get profitable on, either a demo or a small account. Once you've got that capital, that's when you deploy it. And then you're not even chasing the money because you're doing the exact same thing that you were with $100. Now you're doing it with $100,000. And the money's obviously a byproduct of that. It's so simple and easy, but people get so focused on chasing that money that obviously when you chase something, it's going to run away from you.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. One thing I wanted to ask. So as you were making that transition from law to trading, would you say, because I imagine there's crossover in a lot of industries, but if we're talking about law in specific, did you see, or did you have any habits within the law industry that you carried over to trading that benefited you? Yeah,
I think so. I definitely think so. I think one of the main things was I I was very shocked when I came into the trading industry, obviously coming from the legal industry, which is so professional, so every T and I is dotted, so regulatory, every meeting is booked, every so-and-so is done to the T. I came into trading and I realized that these are just kids. They don't even know how big business works. Not that I was some CEO or whatever, but the firm that I was in was doing hundreds of millions a year. Okay, so there was a big system, it was all, bulletproof. And I came into trading and people had no system, there was no contracts for deals, there was no, nothing was really set up properly. And I think I was able to apply that and just from a discipline standpoint, see trading as more of a business and say, look, I'm going to have this strategy. I'm basically clocking into work every morning. It's the same thing. I'm turning up at 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm actually going to work straight through. I'm not playing video games. I'm not doing anything stupid. So apply the time management, the discipline. It's very difficult to write a 3,000 word legal brief overnight, but you have to do it, right? So that gives you a lot of discipline, which most people wouldn't have. So yeah, that's definitely something that I think I was able to apply.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'd imagine the law industry being superly to a T, everything has to be done to a T.
100%.
And like you said, I feel like because there's no barrier to entry with trading, you see that the majority are doing it wrong. We're just coming in like, I want to quit my job tomorrow. So I'm just going to rush in. I don't have no system in place. I don't have nothing in place. I'm just going to YOLO, take a trade and hopefully it makes me the most amount of money, which is just the wrong approach in general. So again, when you were initially starting trading, how were the first few months? Were they super, super difficult in terms of like profitability, strategy hopping and so forth? Like, did you find yourself just really struggling or was it just like a not so difficult beginning to your trading journey?
Yeah, so I'll go back, back a little bit. So I started off trading cryptocurrency. I made a decent bit of money on that. And then I was like, I've got a little bit of cash here in crypto. Let me trade it. I was trading it using, patterns, sending triangles, all that sort of thing. It wasn't working. Then I went to MACD, EMA, which do work, but I was definitely doing it wrong. So yeah, strategy hopping was something that I struggled with at the start. And then I stumbled across, futures and then Forex. And I found one strategy and it seemed very simple, seemed to work very well. And I was like, you know what, this is really where I need to lock in now. So I sort of said to myself, look, stick with it, give yourself, 6 months or whatever. Whilst I was working at the law firm, I was sticking to it. And the main thing I think why I didn't switch from it is because I was seeing consistent improvement. I was definitely not profitable, but I went from blowing an account every week to blowing an account every month to not blowing accounts anymore. And then, now I'm passing accounts. And when I quit, it was a bit of a gamble as well because I wasn't printing big money. It wasn't like I'm doing what I am now, where it's more than enough to live off of. It was a bit of a risk. But I think the main thing that you have to tell yourself is that it is a process, it's a learning journey. And for the people who are starting out trading, the main thing is that 90% of the time, the strategy is not going to be what they're failing at. I think we discussed this last episode, but realistically, it's them that's the problem. There's, as long as you have an edge, which most people do, it's very easy to develop an edge in the market. The only other variable is your strategy and your discipline. And yeah, you have to lock that in before you can do anything else.
No, bang on. Literally, we spoke or we touched on it on the last episode that it's not really the strategy, it's the person behind the strategy, 100%. It's the trader and all the psychology that goes within it. But out of curiosity, what strategy do you trade?
Yeah, so I trade a bit of a mismatch now. I've developed sort of my own strategy from a lot of different things. It's very simple, very basic, and a lot of people will tell you it's too simple to work, but I would conversely say it has to be that simple for you to be able to work it. We're not algorithms, we're not computers. The more simple you can make it, it goes back, keep it simple, stupid. The more simple you can make your strategy, the better it will be. You will, understand it more. You'll have a better grasp over the market. So the way I trade is price action, basic market structure, candle theory. So using like wicks, candle bodies, and breakouts and support and resistance. So essentially, to break it down, I'll come down to my charts in the morning. I'll do a top-down analysis. So I'm going to start from the monthly time frame, go all the way down to the 1 hour, and essentially look at bias, daily bias, figure out where the market structure is going. Is the 4 hour structure bullish, bearish, etc. Then I'm just going to mark up support and resistance levels. So I'm going to mark up my initial range, which is where price is right now, and then external ranges. These are going to be my TPs for the day.
Okay.
And in a consolidating market, all I'm doing realistically is waiting for a break of those zones, a retest, and then I'm entering and continuing to the next zone. So taking advantage of the theory that once one range is closed outside of, price fills up to the next range, and that's what it does every time.
Okay. Oh, that's really cool. And what? So I know you mentioned it's like you created your own, but in terms of like the inspiration or when you first dabbled into that theory, were you watching it on YouTube? Did you stumble upon any particular individual on YouTube or Twitter or?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of people that were doing something similar. I think one of the pioneers of the strategy is Raja Banks.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah, it's essentially, stems from the strategy that he trades. And then I think this is a very key thing in trading in general is every single trader needs to develop their own strategy. You can find a strategy, maybe it's ICT, SMC, support and resistance, whatever it is. Find it and then find your own edge. See something that prints every day on the market that maybe someone else hasn't seen. That is your edge. Once you've tested that and got the numbers behind it, then that's your strategy. It's just little tweaks. So for example, I've developed a strategy or an entry model where it's based off of candle wicks. So if a candle closes without a wick for me and it's near my entry point, that's a reversal symbol. So I'm looking to get in straight off that wick and it's got something like an 87% win rate. It's an absolutely, perfect entry. And I don't think many people have seen it. So I'm hesitant to give it out too much, but no, I give it to my stream. But so it's just stuff like that, making minor tweaks. Because if everyone traded the same strategy, this is why the banks don't give out their algorithms. Because if everyone traded the same thing, it wouldn't work. Yeah,
exactly that. Okay, that's cool. You know what I personally trade, so the two candle theory, I wanted to simplify it as much as possible. And I've been in the game for about 3 years now, I'd say. And I was strategy hopping from one to the next. It was just chaotic. Didn't know what I was doing. And then I just realized I need to stick to one thing, simplify it as much as possible. So what I'm personally doing is a mixture of ICT, pretty much taking the, just the fair value concepts, like price needs to be filled, and then also the two candle theory. So if price is within a fair value gap and it's beginning to reverse, and then it prints a nice candle, I'll just, based off the wick, I need to create a wick, and once it's formed the wick and flipped, then I'll take an entry. And it's working very well for me, and I know just keep locking in the psychology, things will be good. But on that topic, I think in terms of strategies, you personally, I'm guessing in your community, you see traders bouncing around from strategy to strategy, or initially when they first come in, bouncing around from strategy to strategy. How long would you say you should give it for a trader to stick to one strategy before they should actually revise it and then perhaps look into the next one? Or do you think someone should just stick with one and just try to simplify it as much as possible?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think realistically, it's one of those things you're most likely going to know after a couple of months. So, give it 2-3 months. What I would say as well is make sure that you've actually learned the strategy, because a lot of people say they know things and then they don't, a lot of people will say they've spent time learning it. For example, ICT, people will watch his 2022 mentorship or whatever it is, and they'll watch 60 hours of content in a week and be like, oh, I know the strategy now. No, you don't. You haven't traded it, right? You have to know the strategy, back test it, forward test it until you know it day in, day out, like until you can see those FVGs wherever you go, whenever you're looking at the charts. For me, the same thing. When I'm looking at market structure, price action, it's just second nature now, to the point where if I look at a chart, I'm pretty certain I could guess whether it's going to go up or down just based off of the fact that I've seen this structure so many times. Obviously, I'm not going to take an entry off of it, but you need to get to that point where you're so confident that you've learned the strategy. And then if the strategy is not for you, because it's not going to be for everyone, there's people in my group that have learned my strategy and then they go, oh, this is not really for me. I prefer a different swing style entry, or I prefer this, which is completely fine. It's just based in personal preference. For me, like I said, I traded trend lines and patterns and that, and I realized that it's not for me. I'm sure people do it successfully, maybe they don't, but I would say stick with a strategy for 3 to 6 months. If it's working, then great. If you've actually got it down and you know the strategy and it's not working, you're probably going to know deep down inside you that you need to change and just test something else.
Okay, no, that makes total sense. So in regards to yourself, do you backtest a lot?
So I never backtested.
Never?
I've never backtested ever.
Huh?
Yeah.
Really?
The reason being, and this is again personal preference, but I've never felt comfortable on a demo account. I'm not serious enough on a demo account. And backtesting is essentially demo. So I found myself, when I tried to backtest, I'd start, okay, good. Let me set the backtesting FX replay or whatever it is. Let me set it up. Here's my zones. And then an hour later, I'm popping in 1,000 lots trying to see if I can make $1 million or whatever. And I'm like, this is not working. Yeah. And I realized that I'm only serious when it comes to real money.
Real money, yeah.
So what I did instead was I just put like £1,000 into an account and I'd forward tested. Okay. So I just went, I was, I have the time. I have 6 months or whatever. And I know with forward testing, you're not going to be able to test years like you can with backtesting. And I'm not saying don't backtest because a lot of people find great value in it. Mm-hmm. But for me, again, this just goes down to knowing yourself as a trader and knowing whether or not you can do certain things. I can't backtest just because I know I won't be able to lock in as much.
No, that makes complete, yeah. I again, personally, I backtest from time to time, but I really got the most value when I was just every day on the charts taking trades, because you can't mimic real life conditions when the candles are actively printing, man. Because on demo you can just keep not on demo, when you're backtesting you just keep clicking X, another candle's printed, you're like, and you got time to think, that looks good, no, I'll wait for another one, click.
Yeah,
it's not realistic.
Exactly.
Like, and I understand if you want to look at perhaps the numbers, see how profitable it can be, but in terms of mimicking real life conditions, the emotions that you're feeling before you take a trade, because that is just one of the factors that would result in you either taking the trade or missing out on the trade.
100%.
So yeah, I definitely see your point in terms of why you personally don't backtest, and yes, I think that's definitely something that the audience can take away. So touching on your strategy as well, I remember you mentioned last time off camera about your win ratio. What currently is like your ratio? Do you pay a lot of attention to your winning ratio? Like, do you care a lot about it, or you just take every day, if you're profitable, and that's it?
Yeah, so this is the thing a lot of people get mixed up, and a lot of traders are in this sort of sheep mentality. And personally, I'm going to say it now and everyone's going to hate me. Risk to reward is bullshit.
Oh, God.
But realistically, it is. And the reason why is because it's a triangle, right? It's a combination. You have win rate and you have risk to reward. I'm sure everyone's seen the chart, but some people seem to forget it. And they say, I've had people commenting on my TikTok saying anything below 2-to-1 risk to reward is gambling.
Yeah, I see those comments as well,
How does that mean it's gambling? So for me, my risk to reward is between 0.5 and 1. So 0.5 risk to reward and 1 risk to reward, which yes is negative risk to reward. But we were talking about this on stream yesterday. Throughout the past year, since the start of 2024, my win rate on stream has been 91%. Which means...
Let's take a second. You said what? 91%? That is ridiculous.
And it's all taken live, every single trade in front of an audience. So if anyone wants to chat to me, come chat to me.
Exactly.
But again, negative risk to reward. But the fact that the win rate is so high makes up for it. And there's going to be traders that have a 10% win rate and they're still making money as well because they have a high risk to reward. It's just based off of, and I tell this to my students all the time, and anyone who, any comment that I see where people are saying your risk to reward's not high enough, I laugh, because I think the only thing that matters as traders is, are you making money throughout months and years? If you're not, then you're doing something wrong. And there's traders that I see that are going for 5-to-1 risk to rewards and they're getting 4-to-1 in profit and then hitting stop loss because it reverses. It's just so stupid. So I actually let the market dictate my risk to reward. I let the structure dictate it. For example, my stop loss is always below a break of structure, and my take profit is always at the next resistance level, so the next range. So if that happens to be a 1-to-1, then great. If it happens to be a 2-to-1, perfect. But if it's a 0.5-to-1 or a 0.6-to-1, so be it. My strategy still works with it. It's still valid. Obviously, if it's outlandish, like a 0.1 risk to reward or something like that, if my stop loss is 100 pips, then obviously I'm not going to take it. But as long as it's, relatively decent, and I've set myself a rule where I will not take a trade above 45 pip stop loss. And then after that, everything's valid, because now I'm not risking too much. There's nothing on the table, and my win rate is so high to the point where, even if I lose a trade, it's taking 1 or 2 trades to make it back maximum. So it's really no big deal.
So that's okay. So when you're about to go into a trade, you don't look at the R&R. You just do it based completely off structure. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
So the only thing I'm looking at before I enter the trade is, are my stops small enough? If the stops are too big, especially on gold, because gold runs like crazy. Yeah. If the stops are, say, 50, 60 pips, 70, whatever, I'll just sit out. And I used to struggle with that. And I used to say, I'll just make my stop loss bigger and then decrease my risk. But then you're also decreasing your wins when you're taking that position. And if you hit stops, it's just not valid. So for me, now all I do is I still have the same risk. I do fixed lots, so I don't change my lot size depending on the stop loss. And I just say, right, if it's above 45 pips, I can't take it. If it's below, good, I'm in, no matter what the TP is.
Okay. Well, a 91% win rate. I mean, that says everything. So that shows, again, your understanding of the charts, because you're trading purely, essentially, off price action, because all of your levels are based on price action points. So yeah, that's incredible. That's an incredible win rate. So huge kudos to you. So yeah, you mentioned that of course you trade live every day, and all of those trades were taken live. So what is that like? Because I would imagine, like personally for myself, when I'm trading and then I'll get into like an egotistical self. When I win a trade, I'll send it to my friends. Hey, I'm doing amazing. Look at this.
Yeah.
When I lose a trade, I'm not sending those in. And it becomes so bad because then I'm always looking to send these winning trades, but then when I'm losing it just messes up with my psychology.
Definitely.
So for you to trade in front of a live audience, what impact does that have on your mental?
Yeah, no, I understand that. There's definitely two schools of thought on it. Obviously, trading live every day, you're going to either have fear about it or you're going to take responsibility. And for me, initially it was the first one. So I was nervous taking the trades. I had to do it anyway. But, if you lose, that's the ego thing. We spoke about this on the last podcast. If I lose that trade, maybe people think I'm a bad trader. But then eventually you realize, actually, I'm making money trading. It doesn't matter what they think. And then once you sort of realize that and realize that you take the ego out of it, it doesn't matter if you're winning or losing one specific trade. Now you're saying, okay, cool. I'm just going to lock in, trade my strategy. And it turns into, how can I actually be responsible for these other people in my stream? How can I not necessarily make them money, but teach them the strategy and show them how it's done? Because at the end of the day, I've built a really good community. It's called TRLS, my community. And essentially they are all such good traders in terms of discipline and mindset. I don't have anyone saying when I lose, oh, why'd you take that trade? That was a shit trade, or you shouldn't have done that. All I have is, W, on to the next one. Because I've taught them my mindset, which is long-term thinking. We don't tolerate any of that negativity because, again, negativity in trading is a killer. So we don't tolerate it. And it's to the point now where if someone new comes in and I take a trade and I lose and they go, L. I've got 15, 20 people going, shut up, backing me, because they understand the actual mentality behind it, which is, we support each other, we help each other win. And, in my community, everyone is leveling up. That's all that matters. It's as long as you're trying and, improving, then you're welcome.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. If you can build a community of bulletproof mindsets, which is what you have, it's just positivity breeds positivity, and again, negativity does the opposite. And I was actually going to ask, do you get a lot of trolls in the chat where, do they just pop in and then eventually get kicked out? Or in the beginning, I imagine that would have been hard to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? I think it's platform based, but yeah, you definitely get a couple of trolls every now and then jumping in. I think it's funny because you can tell they're not profitable.
Yeah.
If anyone's coming,
they wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. The main platform, and I hate this platform so much, is TikTok.
Okay, yeah.
TikTok. I post on Instagram, I get love. I post on YouTube, I get love. I post on TikTok, and it's just trolls. It's just trolls.
Different demographic.
And the funny thing is, none of them can trade.
Yeah.
So you have to just take it with a pinch of salt. But at the end of the day, it's actually quite funny because it's just like free engagement, and you just see stuff, and we look at it as entertaining. Sometimes on my stream we'll go through my TikTok comments and just see like what people are saying and how different it is from our community. It's almost like a way to say, you know what, look, be grateful for what we've got, because we're trying to level each other up and these guys all are just trying to bring each other down.
Exactly.
And I think, this will get me in trouble too, but that's the main thing about ICT. The community in ICT is so toxic.
Yeah.
They are all trying to bring each other down and saying, I trade ICT the right way. I trade ICT the right way. You're not doing this correctly. You're not doing this correctly. Your risk reward's bad. They're all ripping each other down. And that's why the community's got such a bad reputation and toxic one. Whereas we've built one which is completely opposite, which is, if it works for you, great. If it works for me, also great. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's sort of like how in fitness, you can do loads of different ways to get fit and they all work, but essentially whatever you deem or whatever you like, you stick with that and then go about you. But you don't need to go and bring other people down or other 100%. Ways to get fit down. So that's powerful. So in terms of trading live, what initially made you want to trade live? Like, what was it?
Yeah, I just think, to be honest, I've always sort of enjoyed that sort of social aspect of stuff. I think trading can be quite a lonely game.
For sure.
Another thing is I sort of saw an opportunity there. There wasn't many people trading the way that I traded who were trading live. And to show transparency in the journey as well. So, I could have been not profitable and trading live every day, and I think I still would have done it. It might have been a little bit harder, but, showing day in, day out the life of a trader and showing to people that this is actually how it works. I'm coming to the chart, and a lot of the times I'll come to stream and I won't get a trade. People will be like, why didn't you take a trade? And I will say to them, I'm a trader first, a streamer second. So I want to show them how the journey works and help people through. And that is the best way to do it. You can buy someone's course, or you can read whatever document they make. But until you're in a live stream with me, literally talking to me, and I see you in chat and you're asking me questions, and I can literally in real time go through it on the charts and explain stuff to you. The amount of people that have messaged me and said how powerful that is and how helpful it is, because they've been struggling with stuff, they've been trying to Google stuff, YouTube it, and they come to stream, ask a question, and then it's fixed within 10 seconds, 30 seconds. So I think just seeing that ability to help people is massively
the best thing. Yeah, 100%. I think building a community of like-minded people is so key if you want to really go far, because as you said, trading is such a lonely game. Waking up, depending on whatever session you trade, waking up and just sitting on the charts, locked in for hours, not talking to anyone, you don't want to be distracted. It can be very daunting and lonely, and if you have that group of people that are very positive, it can uplift you during those darker days, which we all have. I think it's absolutely key.
Definitely.
So when you are trading, I actually wanted to ask, because when I trade, I listen to music. Did you, or before you had a community, did you have any other possible distractions, or were you just fully locked into the charts, phone away, different room, and just focusing in?
Yeah, I think the best way to trade for me is just stick some music on and chuck the phone away.
What type of music?
This is a weird one. So I've got a really white music taste, but when I'm trading, which is strange, a lot of people like really calm music. I like quite aggressive drum and bass music.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to. Really, does that not distract you?
No, I think it gets me in a zone. I'm sort of locked in. It's like there was some people at my school that used to study with heavy metal on, and I was always like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, how are you?
But I'll listen to like drum and bass. Maybe I don't like listening to songs with words in when I'm trading, because that does distract me. Yeah. So like if I'm gonna listen to like something like rap or whatever, it's gonna have to be an instrumental. But yeah, most of the time it's gonna be like house music, drum and bass, and just get a little bit of a vibe going. Again, positivity. I'm not listening to like sad music, classical music, whatever. It's just energy, vibes, and then jump on the charts. And I think that reflects into your trading.
Mm-hmm.
Especially confidence as well. Like, there's nothing better than like a good song to get your confidence up. And if you can come to the markets, this is something that I've massively noticed. If you are confident when you come to the charts, it's almost like that placebo effect where your trading is going to work out no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying don't go and, trade without a strategy or whatever, but having a sort of level of confidence where you come to the markets and go, I'm going to take a win today. I'm going to master the markets. I know what I'm doing. A lot of the time works out extremely well. Whereas people that are afraid to execute, and there is people, I've had people in my group where they know the strategy well, and I know they know the strategy well because they can repeat it to me. But they're so scared of executing trades that they'll see their strategy form, they won't execute, and then they're going to get annoyed that they didn't execute, and then they'll FOMO into a trade, and then the spiral repeats.
The spiral.
It's so sad because,
that spiral is horrible. You just reminded me. I just had some flashbacks.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, man. So I wanted to touch on actually a day of your trading, for example. What do you do when you first wake up? What's a typical day like for you, of like Monday to Friday, let's say? And then what do you do on the weekends just to chill out?
Yeah, so I actually have a really good daily routine. I made a good video about this on TikTok, and it kind of got a lot of views and a lot of controversy. But for me, it works so well. And it's just about finding a routine that works for you. But mine is very simple. So I wake up around like 7:30. It's going to change when I move abroad, but I wake up around then, get a coffee, get some water, have a shower, and then come to the charts around 8. So I'm missing pre-London, but I'm kind of understanding that I'm missing it. I'm not really a morning person, so I don't want to be trading then. So I miss pre-London. I get on the charts around 8, start my stream at 8:30. Then I'm trading London session for 8:30 till around 11. Once I've done that, I sort of jump off, grab some breakfast. So I'm fasted when I trade London session. I think it helps me think a lot clearly. And then get some breakfast, chill out for a couple of hours, and then I also am doing New York session in my private group. So I stream New York session from like 12:30 till 3. And then that's essentially it. Obviously, I'm looking for trades. If I take a trade in any of these sessions, I'm instantly done. So for example, today before I came here, I was streaming and took a trade at 9 o'clock. And instead of streaming through till like 12, I just called it there. I'm done. I don't need to trade twice in London session. I'll trade twice in a day, but not in one session. And then normally after I'm done with New York session, I'll head straight to the gym, just sort of, decompress. I think it's such a good way. I think as well, traders who don't go to the gym genuinely suffer more than traders who do. It doesn't have to be necessarily the gym, but running or some sort of physical exercise. I've noticed the ones who don't do that normally are not as profitable as the ones who do. And it's just probably down to a discipline thing or getting off the charts. There's nothing better than, the gym or a run to get you actually out of the charts and out of your phone. So yeah, decompress that way. And then afterwards, I'll come back and take a look at PM session for New York. If there's nothing, there's nothing. And then I'm done. I'm just doing calls and meetings and that sort of thing. So.
Okay. So on some days you could be on the charts for like 5-6 hours, right?
Oh.
How does that must be quite draining.
Yeah, I think so. I think with the way that I trade, it's normally 30-minute and 15-minute closures. So I'm most likely, when I'm not streaming, obviously when I'm streaming, it's very draining and you have to be locked in and talking to chat and explaining stuff, which is draining. That's why I give myself a few hours off straight after my first stream. But afterwards, if I wasn't streaming, I would literally just be looking at every 30-minute closure, every hourly closure. I'd have my, analysis done in the morning and I'd just come back every 30 minutes, maybe set an alarm or whatever. So for the people who are new to trading, that's exactly what I would do to stay off the charts. And that's what I did when I was working in the law firm. I would literally just look at the time. Oh, it's 29 minutes past, 30-minute closures in a minute. Let me see. Is there a setup? No, okay, back to work. And that way you're not just sat on the charts doing nothing. You can actually be productive. And I'll be in meetings. I'll be in, doing stuff outside. And yeah, I'll be able to still trade, which as long as when you're in the trade and the minutes before you're in the trade, you actually lock in, that's fine for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, I adopt a similar concept in the sense I'll wake up. So I typically trade the 6 a.m. candle and the 10 a.m. 4-hour candle. Yeah. So I like to do that analysis the night before because waking up at like 5 something is, I'm not really a morning person, so it's not ideal, but I'll wake up, quickly have a look at it. Is the setup forming? No. Switch off, log back on maybe like 9:30. Is the setup forming? If it is, then I'll lock in. If not, close the laptop. Because when I first started, I was on the charts a lot, and I feel like it's like I'm creating scenarios in my head. I get to a point where if I've sat on the chart all day and nothing's popped up, I'm like, I haven't even done anything. I feel like I haven't been productive, and that's another hurdle that I think everyone has to go past as a trader. That sometimes not taking a trade is a win. A day where you're doing nothing is a win. In your experience, with your community of traders, do you typically see a lot of people see a non-trading day as a losing day?
Yeah, I think one of the main things I instill in my students is, like you said, non-trading days are a win. And being productive as a trader is not taking trades. Being productive as a trader is coming to the charts, doing your analysis, going through your routine, and then sticking to your strategy and staying disciplined. So if you get to the end of the day and you have not taken a trade because the market hasn't printed an entry, that's a productive day. That's a win, massively a win. And that is the main thing I notice in my newer students. So when people join me and join my community, the one thing I'll notice is even if we've taken a trade, 5 minutes later, they're going, oh, could this form right now? Is this going to form? Is there something else forming here now? What about if this does this? Chill out. Right? Just chill out. A lot of people, they want to take a trade every day. It's not going to happen. I would love the market to print me a perfect setup every single day, but it will not do it. Yeah. It just won't. And the reason is because, there's different cycles throughout different days. And yeah, potentially something's forming and it's 80% correct and you can't take it and then you get, annoyed and they want to take a trade. But the main thing I remind people is that, patience pays and you have to stay disciplined in order to do this. And if you can't go a day without taking a trade, then you need to work on that.
Exactly. So touching on your strategy again, do you have a set amount of rules per day? So for example, if you've entered a trade and let's say another pair offers a great setup, are you going to enter it, or you're just doing one trade at a time, or you got a set amount of trades a day?
Yeah, so I only trade one pair. Yeah, I trade gold only. So for me, obviously, for me that doesn't really apply. But I used to trade Euro USD as well, and I would say for any newer traders, do not be in 2 trades at a time, because you have to manage things. There could be volume spikes. You're just asking for trouble. Even if you can do it a couple of times, there's going to be that one time where you can't manage both trades at once.
Yeah.
Unless you're, major swing traders and you're letting trades run for a couple of days, But I would say, yeah, for me, the main thing as well for newer traders, and I did this when I was starting, is give yourself a concrete set of rules, have them written down and have them somewhere you can see them on your desk. For me, that would be no more than 1 trade per session. Certain risk profiles. So pick what risk you're happy with and take that. And then if you lose, you're done for the day. If you lose, you shouldn't be taking another trade. You can become a little bit more lax with those rules as you move into sort of later stages of profitability. So for me now, it's got to the stage where I can judge, and I know myself well enough to know if I'm on tilt or not. I took a loss yesterday in New York AM session, went to the gym, came back, something printed in PM session, I took it, and we ended up break even for the day. But me 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, I would have told myself I can't take that, because you don't know if you're on tilt or not. And that's something that you have to see within yourself as a trader and see, okay, am I able to do that? Because most people aren't.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned you only trade gold. How come you picked gold? Because gold is I feel like it's very volatile. What's the word? It's not a pair.
Commodity.
Commodity. Yeah. That's it. It's a very crazy commodity to trade. Why did you pick gold, and were you previously trading forex, and what made you make the switch?
Yeah, so when I started with gold, and then I experimented with stuff like Euro USD, and gold was always my main pair. Gold's like the main woman, she's loyal. She's loyal.
And now you need to.
Yeah. No, I'm joking. I take it back. But no, seriously, gold is for me, it's always been the main pair, and then I've experimented with adding, NAS, Euro dollar. I looked at GJ for a bit, but I always sort of realized that for my strategy, gold is very, very technical. It will stick to levels well. It breaks and retests. When you get indices like US 30 or whatever, a lot of the times they break through levels and they're just gone, and there's no entry. Whereas gold is so technical, it retests every little level. So every support and resistance area, every new high is getting tested before a reversal. So it's very reliable. Gold, you can use it as just a base mark of what good price action is, and it's so easy to actually just figure out where the movement wants to go. And I tell people this all the time, just with a little arrow tool on TradingView, if you just mark up the highs and lows, it's always going to be a very clear trend. Whereas some of the forex pairs, firstly, they move very slowly, and that's not something I like. I don't like to be in a trade for a long time. For me, the best way to trade is to get in and out as quick as possible. Once your target points have been hit, I don't want to be holding a trade for too long. The longer I have risk on the table, the less comfortable I feel. And that's just me. Some people prefer swing trading, but I would like to be in and out, done for the day, with small stops so that I can make enough profit from these small moves. And that's just how it works. And gold for that is absolutely perfect. It's breaking out of a range, it's retesting that range. That's your entry point, and you take it to the next range. It's so simple.
Yeah. To be fair, gold, in terms, if you want movement, for sure you're going to get volume out of gold. Depending on the session that you trade, some forex pairs just don't move, man. It's just all too slow. So slow that sometimes you can't even make, depending on whatever strategy you trade, there's just not enough volume for you to make profit. So I totally get where you're coming from. So to divert a little bit, so let's say trading now, I feel like it's changed a lot in the past few years. I'd say particularly post 2020, with the rise of prop firms. For traders coming into the space now, how would you advise them to begin their journey? So I'm guessing you'd advise, I know you're not a fan of demo, and I totally get your point. Would you advise them to start on like a demo to see how they go? And then, for example, they could either open up a small personal and then a prop. How would you go about it yourself and then advise it?
Yeah, so this is the simple roadmap I give to my students to become profitable, and the way they should do it with their accounts is very simple. It's literally demo account to learn the strategy. Once you've got it down, move on. So you got a small demo account to learn the actual skill, and then a small live account to actually focus on putting that skill into the market. So now you're testing how you do under pressure in trades. Once you've got that small live account locked in, then you've got a choice. You can go the prop firm route, or if you've got the capital, you go to a live account, you know? And these stages should be like a couple of months each. So, you know, you'll be on a demo account for a few months. Small live account is one of the most important phases for me. That's you testing, can I now apply the strategy that I've learned when there's nothing on the table with risk on the table? And then obviously you don't want to go from that. A month later, you've now got 50 grand in an account and you're like, well, but yeah, that's realistically what I would do. And then once they've got that down, locked in, and I always ask for like 6 months of profitable stats from my students, then they can go to a prop firm and or a live account. If they haven't got the capital, prop firms are great. Prop firms are absolutely great to scale your capital. But I always say this, prop firms are not the end goal. They're the way you get to the destination, right? So prop firms are your tool to get to a live account, because every single trader must be aiming to be on a large live account towards the end of their journey, or, you know, as quick as possible in their journey, because you're not as restricted. You can essentially trade how you want to trade. And but obviously to generate capital, there's no better tool than a prop firm. You know, you've got instant access to 200k in capital, 100k depending on what account you buy. As well as that, one thing that prop firms do extremely well, and this is a good and a bad thing depending on how you do it, is they make it hard for you to pass. Now what that means is you have a specific risk criteria, you have rules to stick to, and if you take it the wrong way, that's going to be blown accounts. But if you take it the right way, that's now you being a disciplined trader, because you now know I can't risk more than 4% a day. I can't lose 10% in total. I can't take 2 trades within a certain period of time. I can't trade news. And all of those rules are actually really beneficial for a trader. You know, I don't trade news. I don't risk more than that. I don't take 2 trades back to back. I don't, you know, hedge trades or anything. So these are massively good rules that traders should use and implement. And if you can pass a prop firm, you should be able to scale a live account, unless you're buying like 10 prop firms and then, you know,
it's just chaotic.
Vice versa them. Yeah. A lot of people do that. They do they try and do that. I've had so many people ask me about, what if I buy 4 prop firms and then I buy on one, sell on the other?
Yeah. No, you're wrong approach. It's a wrong approach.
Yeah.
So, okay, no, yeah, I think I totally agree. I think in terms of like prop firms have their space, extremely beneficial for those that don't have access to the capital and need the leverage that they can get to scale quicker than they usually would do. For yourself, did you ever trade on a prop firm yourself?
Yeah, I did very briefly. I traded them for a while. I didn't have much fun with them or much success. I think it was early on in my career, and my psychology was not there. Like I'll be the first to say it, completely transparent with it. You know, I was not doing very well on these props, and I think the numbers at the time, because I went straight to a 200k account, I was like, bang, I'm going to bash this out. And seeing like, you know, going from my small live account that I was learning on, which was $1,000, to $4,000 drawdown on a 2% 200k trade, I was like, whoa. And then your psychology gets in the way. And then also the one thing that people fail with on prop firms, the main thing that traders struggle with on prop firms is they're so focused on the money, which is obviously the whole time what we've been saying not to focus on as a trader. You need to just think of it as, all right, I'm just trading, 8% or whatever it is. Focus on the percentage, not the money. Don't think, oh, I'm going to scale this up. I'm going to get a 10k payout. It's going to be sick. Let me take another trade quickly so I can pass the account. No, you need to not be doing that. You need to just stay locked in, stay focused. And that's why I went to a live account again. And then I realized I was a lot better on a live account. So I just, again, like I said in the last episode, stick to what you're good at and scale up. But yeah. Yeah,
no, again, I totally agree. In terms of, I think the approach to the way some people approach challenges is probably, I think it goes back to the approach to trading in general. It's just get a get rich quick scheme. And that's the last thing you need to be thinking about in trading. You need to have your strategy down to a T, your psychology down to a T, and you will succeed. It may take a while, it may take years. Don't expect it to be quick, but if you really, really stick at it and you know what you're doing, you're disciplined, regardless of whatever route you take, you will have a level of success in trading that you aspire to have. So yeah, I think, to touch on what you said, I completely agree. It just, the route will be different for some. Everything has its own benefits. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility for those that don't have access to the capital. So now to touch on something a bit different and out of trading. I know you mentioned that, which was a very interesting insight or view that you got from your community, or in general just the trading community, is that those that go to the gym and are in shape or fit typically will likely have a better chance of being successful. Why do you think that is? And do you think to be a successful trader, your whole life needs to be on point? Or can you just be good at trading and everything else outside of it is havoc, let's say?
Yeah, no, so I definitely disagree with that. I think as to be a good trader, you must have your life on point in all aspects, or at least as many aspects as possible. One thing that I've noticed, just tiny, but this, explains my point to a T. If I have a messy room and a messy desk in my office, my trading's worse. And I'm so hyper analytical to the point where I've noticed that, if there's too much stuff on my desk, I can't focus on the charts. So how do you expect, if you've got a messy life, if you've got, messy clothes, or if you've got a poor physique or bad diet, how do you expect to be locked in on the charts if you're not locked in the rest of your life? It's such a simple thing. And the reason earlier why I said that traders who go to the gym are more profitable is because a good physique or a good fitness level is the only thing in life that money can't buy. It's the only thing where you have to be disciplined, you have to put the work in. And if you don't, it's not going to happen, right? So for me, if I see someone with a good physique, or they're athletic, or they're lifting big weights, that is telling me straight away they've put years of work in, and that means that that's a directly transferable skill into, I can put years into anything, which means that if you've got the motivation to put it into trading, you're going to be more profitable. Whereas when you see people that were sloppy with their clothes, or imagine if I'd come to this interview right now with a t-shirt on that's got food down it and stuff like that, you would literally be thinking, who is this guy? There's no way he's profitable. And just the way that you talk to me would be different. So just presenting yourself that way, and the way I would feel, like I would not be comfortable enough to even go in front of these cameras right now because I was not presentable. Whereas if you actually have that all in check, if you've worked out, if you've done all that stuff, your confidence level is much higher, and your ability to stay disciplined is definitely higher, which means that you can directly transfer that into trading.
Yeah. Okay, nice. And to touch on the gym, how often do you go to the gym?
Every day.
Every single day?
Every
7
day.
days a week or 5?
7 days a week.
7 days a week?
It's not good for you. And I definitely don't recommend it, but
You don't think so?
I think the science says that you should be going like 5 days a week or something, but you need rest days, don't get me wrong. But for me, it's something that's so integral in my routine, and I cannot concentrate if I haven't worked out. I worked out before I came here in the morning. If I hadn't, I would literally be like, I've noticed it, the days that I have a rest day, I'm like fidgety, I can't focus, I'm on the charts, like not focusing. In just general life as well, if you were talking to me, I'd be thinking somewhere else. So for me, it's something that's so integral in my routine, and I think the science backs it up, like movement and, actually doing stuff with your body is massively linked to your cognitive function. So stuff like that, and diet as well. One of the main things is I see people eating sugary or junk food, and that they don't understand it, and they're not, like I said, to be a good trader you have to be analytical. They're not analytical enough to realize that it's affecting their function. So for me, if I would have drank a Coke or whatever before this, or something with loads of sugar in, I know for a fact I can't concentrate as much. That's why I like to be fasted before trading or before stuff like this. And I think you have to be very conscious of what you're doing with your body, what you're putting into your body. And it's going to reward you, right? Your brain is going to reward what you do to it. And if you treat it nicely, it's going to treat you back, and you're going to stay sharp. And
Yeah. Okay, no. It's actually good that you touch on that point about, like, for example, diet as well. Because I see it as all linking back to dopamine. 100%. And to touch on the topic of dopamine, which is huge, social media, I know you're active on it every day, but outside of your community, are you actively on social media just like obviously mindlessly scrolling? I feel like maybe everyone does it for a few minutes a day, but are you an avid user of social media outside of like productivity and trading stuff?
Yeah, you know what? Social media is an absolute killer for trading, like absolutely killer. If you have a social media problem, you have to stop it in order to be profitable. I did notice that, I had it. So obviously with my job being half trading, and then obviously I have the social media side as well, I used to call it market research or whatever, scrolling through, and then suddenly it's been 4 hours and I'm like, what have I just done?
That's not too bad.
Trust me. But like, I noticed that, you just get, no matter who you are, I've even seen interviews with like millionaires or billionaires or whatever on whatever saying that they get sucked into it as well, like CEOs. It's such a killer, and it's designed obviously to take your attention away, and then directly moving that into trading. If you're sat here going like, swipe, new dopamine hit, swipe, new dopamine hit, swipe, new dopamine hit.
It's crazy.
How are you going to sit there on the charts for an hour and be like, oh, I need to wait for a setup, but then you're also like, dopamine, 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 dopamine. You're more likely to overtrade, FOMO into positions because you want to feel something. Everyone wants to feel something, and they want to feel the dopamine. Because when you get into a trade and when you win a trade, don't get me wrong, it is a dopamine hit. But yeah, something like that is directly affecting your trading because you're priming your dopamine receptors to say, I need quick attention. I'm not going to be able to concentrate for hours on end, and that's what it takes to be a trader.
Yeah, no, again, agree as well. So how much do you limit social media use for yourself per day? Is it like, obviously sometimes you catch yourself like, what am I doing? I've been on this for like an hour. I need to stop. Or is it a thing where you have set rules? Like when I wake up, I'm not going on my phone for the first hour of my day. I need to get my stuff together. Or is it just you're so disciplined within yourself, you can do it on an ad hoc basis?
No, that's something I need to change. And now that you say that, I'm sort of thinking about it. The first thing I do when I wake up every morning is check my notifications. I'm not necessarily scrolling through, but I'm checking like, how many likes did my reel get yesterday? How many likes did my TikTok get? Which is not a good thing to do. But then after that, obviously the main thing is once I start streaming, I'm not going to be on my phone. So yeah, in the morning, I'm definitely not on my phone. And I'd say the main thing with me is if I've got stuff to do, I can't be on my phone before it, because again, like it just puts me in such a zombie mode where when you're scrolling, so I'll limit my phone time to sort of in the evening once everything's done. I'll allow myself like a couple of hours of scrolling, and then sometimes it gets out of hand and it's 2 a.m. I'm like,
God,
I got to wake up at 6.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, oh my God.
Like, so it's difficult, and it's definitely something that people struggle with, and I think that's probably the main problem our generation's facing right now is how to get off that social media. One thing that I've just implemented this month is I now just pay someone to post my Instagram reels for me. So like I'll literally just have them in a drive all made by my editor and everything, and I'll pay someone to post it so that I'm not even going on the platform.
That's good.
Because if you're not creating content, you have no reason to go onto the platform other than scrolling. So now I don't even need to go on it, which is one of the main things. I would notice I'd post a video and then I'd be like, oh, how's that doing? Good. Oh, next one. And then the moment you do that one scroll, it's gone. So deleting the apps is a huge thing. I've now deleted them on my phone, which is...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good, man.
I have 2 phones, though, so one of them has it on.
Oh, God.
But I'm not on that other phone as much, so...
Yeah. I think, in terms of social media, I feel like it's so crazy because there's so many benefits to it. Of course, the communication side of things, but as you touch on, in this day and age, we're consistently hit with dopamine, and we don't see the impact that it's having on just like the little things. Like our attention is falling like rapidly. We know this, and it's in a bad place. And I feel like I saw a statistic that said something like, for our era, the amount of time that we spend on our phone, let's say people average 5-ish hours a day, which sounds a lot, but it's probably a bit more than that. Over the course of your lifetime, you're going to end up spending like, I don't want to be incorrect, so correct me if I'm wrong, someone, maybe like 10 plus years on your phone,
at least,
something mental like that.
Yeah.
And when you actually think about how precious life is,
it's crazy.
10 years sat looking at a device, and you're either a user or consumer. If you're not, of course, these platforms need people to go in there and just scroll from time to time. But if you're trying to achieve anything in life, not necessarily trading, make sure that a distraction such as a phone, if you're not using it for beneficial, like, learning something on social media, be careful of how you spend the time when you start scrolling, because time will just go, and then all of that time you could put into something else.
It's the worst way you can use your time. Literally the worst. Imagine, 5-10 years ago, people were saying how bad Xbox was, or playing video games. When you're playing video games, you're talking to your boys, you're using your hands, you're actually focusing on stuff. I know that it's maybe not the most beneficial use, but you're still, there's strategy behind it, there's actual thought, you're talking to your friends. Now, you're just scrolling like that, and it's so mind-numbing, and it's so damaging to our brains. I was in a restaurant the other day, and I saw a couple, and they had 2 children, and the 2 children, the entire meal was sat there scrolling, and their parents were feeding them whilst they were scrolling. These kids were like 2 and 3. How are those children? How are those children going to grow up? Like, imagine And when the parent took the phone off them at the end of the meal, God,
Yeah.
hell rained down. Honestly, and imagine the way that these kids are now primed.
Yeah.
When I was that age, I was out in the mud playing,
Listen,
like
knock
kicking
down
football.
Ginger.
Yeah, trust me, exactly. But now these kids have got I feel so bad for the generation coming up. And you know, when I have children, no shot they're getting an iPhone. Absolutely.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. So, when are they going to get a phone? And then the next step, when are they going to get an iPhone? Because obviously we can have a phone that you can just reach out to them. What age would that be? And then what age would you finally say, here, have an iPhone?
Yeah, you know, there's a balance between obviously like protecting them and then also shutting them away from their friends. So like, I genuinely think my generation had it the best in terms of social media. When I was like 12, when I was like 11 or 12, I got my Nokia brick.
Yeah.
Then I graduated to a BlackBerry when I was like 14.
Yeah, the BlackBerry
And then
period.
I think my first iPhone, I was like 16, 15, maybe 15. And it was like, wow. But then even still, it didn't have, Reels wasn't a thing. Or anything like that. So it was just to take photos with, post on Instagram maybe to show your friends what you're doing. And then, yeah, that was about it. And for me, that was perfect. So I grew up, you know, my boys would knock on my door, can Sam play out today? Yeah, we go get our bikes, go play football. Kids aren't doing that nowadays. They're filming TikToks. I sound like a boomer, but you get the point. Like it's such a different way to grow up. And I think genuinely we were the last age that actually had a childhood.
Yeah, I agree, to be honest. Yeah, looking at, like, I actually used to work in a school and seeing like young children on phones from like, let's say the age of 6, 7, it's just, for me, like, I can see the impact that it can have. And it's just, yeah, it's going to play out. We're going to see the impacts of it in the future, unfortunately. Hopefully it's not as bad as we imagine it to be, but likely in terms of like attention, just dopamine, everything's just going to be skewed because of it.
But this is where your brain should go, right? If you think about it, that gives an opportunity for the people who aren't doing that to take over the world. Because if you're someone who can control your discipline and say to yourself, I'm not going to scroll on social media, I'm not going to do this bullshit task, I'm going to actually go and build something. 99% of people, 99.999% of people are just sat on their phones scrolling through all day, doing absolutely nothing, contributing zero. So if you go out there, learn a skill, you know, start actually posting on social media, the audience is there, just take over with it. It's so simple. And the people who actually decide to do that and stay consistent, now it's 10 times easier to be successful online because everyone's so focused on consuming the content rather than making it.
No, spot on, absolutely spot on. So I got a few more questions. For yourself, do you see yourself trading for the rest of your life, or would you have like a financial goal that when you hit, you're like, I love trading, but listen, I've done it, I've milked the markets. Let me go enjoy my life. Because obviously, you're trading sometimes 5-6 hours a day. That's still, I know you have that flexibility, the freedom to travel the world, but sometimes you would be tied to a desk and just actively trading. So
I get asked this question a lot, and it's such a great question because it helps you think about planning the future. But for me, I think I'd always trade. Maybe I'd go towards swing trading later on in life when I don't have the time. Or what I think about a lot is, you know, I'm definitely going to have other businesses. You know, I want to start a hedge fund one day. I want to start a brokerage potentially, or even just businesses outside of trading. If you've got enough money to do it, stick $1 million in an account and just trade it for fun. You're going to print money because there's no need for the money. And trading is, at the end of the day, fun, right? I really enjoy trading. I wouldn't be doing it to such a degree. I wouldn't be spending all that time on the charts if I didn't enjoy it. So
true.
I think it's built in my blood right now. I have to be doing it.
Yeah.
And I would definitely still do it, even if it was just for fun, I believe.
And are you going to pass it on to your children?
If I have a son, he's going to be 6 years old, learning candle structure. By the time he gets 18, he's
gone already.
He's already working in a hedge fund.
You know what? That's a good point. To be honest, I think something like trading, because there's so many benefits to it if you do it right. If you teach them from young, and you
easy.
Remove all of the misconceptions about money. Let's just say money in general, not even trading. You're gonna put them in such a better place, especially with where everything's going, man.
You know what it is? Yeah, like I went skiing a month ago, sorry. So I went skiing a month ago, and they're young kids there, 2, 3, 4 years old, skiing down the mountain, they'll overtake you. And the reason is, and all the ski instructors will tell you this, and all the people at my school that have learned when they were super young will tell you, when you're 2 and 3, you have no fear, you get taught the exact right way to do it, you don't have bad habits. By the time you're 10, 11, you're now smashing it. And the same applies with everything. So if you can teach your children, you know, how the banking system works. Obviously, wait till they're older for that. But you know what I mean? If you can teach them the way of the world and an actual transferable skill, by the time they're 18, they're going to be so far ahead of the competition that it's not even going to be funny.
Yeah.
There's going to be zero competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So to touch on some of the learnings that you would give your children, let's say to touch on some of the misconceptions about trading, what did you receive some very bad advice when you first came into the game, or were you ever just like scrolling on some platform and you see some advice and you just think this is just a load of bollocks? Like, yeah.
I think, to be honest, 90% of the people out there are spouting terrible advice.
Okay.
I feel so sad for some of the people that get invested in these sort of, you know, I see people like Greg Secker. I don't know if you know that guy.
Yeah.
I see him on every single YouTube advert and he knows shit all about trading.
He came up on my YouTube yesterday and his adverts are so damn long, and it's just like the things he says that if you take a second to think of what he's saying, let me just say it's frustrating.
Yeah, and there's no hate to any specific person. You got to respect him for doing it. It's his hustle or whatever. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't morally agree with it.
Yeah.
I think he's, you know, people like that are frauding people out of ridiculous amounts of money, and it's not right. But that whole sort of thing. So like the trading bot, to go back to your question, the trading bot, people that say, oh, buy my bot and it prints money for you daily. You don't even need to look at the charts. You're going to make $200 a day. No, you're not.
Yeah.
If I actually know someone who sold a bot to a New York hedge fund for about $16 million. If someone had a trading bot out there that worked, a hedge fund would be knocking on your door and saying, we're going to buy this off you. You're not going to share it or use it ever again. And that's the last you hear of it. There's a reason why these hedge funds spend billions a year on algorithms, on, you know, developing their algorithmic trading. No one, your Forex guru out there, whatever his name is with a Lambo, he doesn't have an EA or a bot that works. I promise you, you're not going to be printing money. His bot maybe works for a week and then you start losing cash quickly. Learn to trade yourself. Like, just ignore any bot or advice like that. It's so bad.
Okay. So if you had to tie it down, the worst piece of trading advice you could receive would be?
Using a trading bot.
Okay. And now on the flip side, what's the best advice? Maybe it doesn't have to necessarily be related to trading, but what's the best advice you've received that has correlated to success in trading?
I think, genuinely, I would say the best advice overall, and then correlated into my trading, is learning to master your mind and yourself. So learning to understand yourself and learning that also confidence directly relates to results. And by that, I mean, you can be better than everyone else. You know, the majority of people in this world, you know, as much as they want to do it, and that's completely fine, they're happy living a mundane life. Whereas if you apply yourself and if you put the time in and the work in, because that's all it takes, right? Hard work outworks talent, right? Hard work beats talent, whatever it is. Literally, it's so true. As long as you put the work in and the hours in, you can do anything you want. And it sounds cliche, but it's so true. You know, as long as you're outworking everyone else, there's no way you can lose. And that's probably the best advice that I was ever given. And I've translated that into everything. And here I am.
Roughly how many hours would you say you've put into trading?
It's countless. I've spent so many sleepless nights learning to trade. I've spent, you know, I used to trade 3 sessions a day, every single session, just to get as much time on the charts as possible. Don't recommend it at all, but literally I was so obsessed with learning the strategy. I had notebooks on notebooks on notebooks of, you know, market structure, support and resistance levels, candle theory, everything you can think of. You know, I used to keep a psychology journal of how I felt in trades, literally written down, like, I felt like this, I over risked, I did that. I spent so many hours learning to trade, and that's what set me apart from everyone else. Is people aren't willing to do that. I tell people to do it, they're still not willing to do it, and putting those hours in is just a non-negotiable. It really is.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms, you just touched on journaling. So is this something that you still do?
Yeah, so I don't really psychology journal as much, but so when I was starting off, I had like a computer spreadsheet on Excel or whatever to journal actually my trades, like the strategy, the win rate, etc. And then I also had like just a notepad, and I literally when I was in a trade, I'd put like, you know, 12th of March, Euro USD longs, gold longs, whatever it is, and then I'd be like, during this trade, I felt like this, I was scared about losing this, I was worried about this, I took profit too early because of this. And I was just so focused on figuring out the way that my mentality worked. And the only way that I knew how to do that was writing it down on paper and then reading it back at the end of the week thinking, okay, this is good, you know. Even if it was a negative emotion, now you know you have that negative emotion, you can fix it.
Yeah. And in terms of, sorry to just divert a little bit, but in terms of tracking the emotional side of things, for traders that, in order to reach profitability and success in trading, do you think a trader has to go through that period where sometimes you lose so much that you're on the verge of giving up, but it's right before you quit, you just like, let me give it another go? Did you experience that yourself?
100%. Yeah.
And do you think every trader needs to go through that?
I think it's a massive learning experience. I think it's that rock bottom feeling.
Yeah.
I always say this, but every trader has the same journey, but they just take different times during each stage. So, you know, a lot of traders start off and they make money just through beginner's luck. Then they start to lose money. You know, they start to lose money slowly and slowly and slowly. Then their psychology messes up. Then they take a deep dive. You know, it's like now you're back below where you started. And now, yeah, you get to that rock bottom where you're thinking, it's been years. You know, I don't know how to trade. I'm not profitable. This is not working. And most of the time, all of the things that you're thinking in your head are not true. You do know how to trade. Your psychology is just not right. And then once you kind of give up and give yourself back to the markets, then it comes back and rewards you and goes, okay, hang on, just try it one more time. And if you do try it one more time, that's when actually you start to get that up curve, that uptick of profitability. Whereas that's why I think 99% of traders fail, or is it 97% of traders fail, is because they get to that stage and they say, oh, I'm giving up. And the ones who don't give up are the ones who become profitable. But if you get to that stage of rock bottom just before you're about to tap out and then you continue, that's when you unlock that next level and that's when you unlock that profitability.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, obviously in your experience, that situation is extremely tough. And so your support circle of like friends and family, when you were going through your trading experience, I imagine they supported you a lot, but did any of them also jump on the experience with you, or did they, after you got through that stage, did they get some like inspiration, like maybe this does actually work, or just all of them just say, no, I'm not trading regardless and I'm not doing it?
Yeah, you know what it is? I think a lot of my friends, when I was starting to trade, when I dropped out of the law firm, a lot of them were like, oh yeah, good on you, well done and everything. But they were super supportive. And then I think in the background, they were secretly like, what is this guy doing? He's delusional, you know? Because at that point, I wasn't making too much from trading. Yeah. And then it started to tick up. And it gets to the point where then they're asking you like, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? How'd you buy this? And etc. And then they still sort of think, oh, I don't know if it actually works or not. And now it's got to the point where obviously
it works.
And I've proven it works over a long period of time. And that now you're starting to get a few more people say to you like, you know, can you teach me this, or how do I do this? And I think a lot of people still would be too embarrassed because they faded it when you were not making money. They went, nah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. There's too many people are so proud that they won't go, oh, now that I know it's working, can you teach me? But yeah, in reality, you have to understand that the lesson from that is, even if your own friends don't back you, you need to back yourself. And yeah, that's the only way you're going to get through this. You only have yourself in this game, in trading, whatever it is. Despite the communities that you build and you have, the only way you get through trading, even your own friends aren't going to back you. So you have to back yourself 10 times more. Yeah,
that is very, very powerful. It's just, if you strip everything away, it's you and the charts and your emotions, and you gotta lock it and control that. Otherwise, no one will ever be able to control it for you. And I actually think that's a perfect way to wrap up. So yeah, Sam, I just wanted to say thank you. I think we've had a great discussion, and this is for me like a masterclass. I feel like the audience will get a ridiculous amount of value from this as usual. You know, in this industry, it's quite rare, or sorry, let me say very rare, to find someone who's an open book like yourself. So to have someone so transparent, like, I super appreciate it. So I can imagine the audience super appreciate it. No, so thank you as always, my man, for coming on. And if we can do it anytime in the future, sure, wherever you're going to be next, we need to make it happen.
No, thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it very much.
And to the viewers, thank you again for tuning into the 7th episode of the Bright Funded Traders Roundtable podcast. If you liked today's episode and you got a bit of value, which I know you did, please drop your comments about the biggest takeaway that you can take from our discussion with Sam today. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also be sure to follow Sam across the socials. We'll post them all up here. Also give him a follow, give him a like. Everything that you're going to do for us, do for Sam. Because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have an episode. And this was truly, truly impactful. Tons of value and gems. So we really appreciate him as usual. Remember what we said during the episode. It's not about the strategy, it's about the trader. So please remember that, traders. And peace. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.